So welcome yourself now to practice. I invite you to get comfortable on the lower back and just rest gently on the back body. We might bring the feet right next to each other, big toes, ankles touching, and allow the knees to slowly and just softly part, not wider than the hips, but allowing ourselves this point so that in this shape, the vagus nerve gets to reset. You might stretch your arms gently away from you. And then the interesting part here is there is absolutely nothing to do. But what you may feel is a lot of shaking down the inner line from knee to hip and adductor. Sometimes you'll even feel it around the back of the hamstrings, right around the base of the glutes. So the invitation here is to rest. I'm not controlling my breath in the moment. I'm trying to allow the spine, the arms, shoulders, face, and jaw to all settle. And if you feel shaking, completely normal, completely normal. That is your body's way of releasing the vagus nerve. But what's interesting here is you may feel the way the mind gets a little frustrated or anxious. So what we're going to do is allow ourselves to keep returning to this moment of gentle witnessing awareness. And the shake may get stronger, it may subside over time. But the invitation again is just to notice. And we'll be here for a good minute, maybe even minute and a half. You might start to bring some awareness to your senses. Notice if there's any clenching in the jaw, any overworking in the eyes. And feel here any shaking, any shuddering sometimes down the inner line of the legs. If you don't feel anything, perfectly okay as well. Again, we are in this experience to witness and ultimately right here to allow the nervous system a chance to begin its reset. Your brain may try to kick up your breath, to really control the breath here to help get rid of the shake. Again, it doesn't like to feel out of control. But we're here. We are witnessing the experience as it unfolds and releasing any held tension from the vagus nerve, which takes all of the information from our organs, runs it up into the brain, and we're here for a good maybe 3 more rounds of breath as we witness the body breathing us. And you might begin to control your breath now, drawing big inhale in, smooth, gentle exhale back out. You might listen for your breath a little bit more. Can be helpful to keep the focus a little bit more connected. And when you're ready, we'll gently wiggle the feet wider, just wider than the hips. You'll hear my ankles snap, crackle, pop. And with the breath, we'll just start to sway the knees from side to side. It doesn't have to be the deepest expression yet. We're building towards that. Again, remembering here, this is not a no pain, no gain place. We're really allowing the body to stay rested and restful here, even as our practice begins to kick up a little bit as we move through. From this next exhale, just let your knees gently rest to the right. If you need a block, you can always use a block or a bolster to prop your knee, your right knee. And if this left hip, this left SI joint specifically is cranky, point that left knee up to the ceiling. And you might bring the arms out gently to the sides, check the neck. And from here, we could turn the chin gently towards the right shoulder and then find where that left arm wants to go. I like to take it long because I get a nice stretch through that whole left erector spinae muscle, but the breath is filling this whole left side of the rib cage. Let the body move because the breath is filling it. And then notice what can soften, what can rest as you exhale. And if you feel like this left leg could handle a little more stretch, you could always put your right ankle up onto the left knee. Again, just keeping an eye out or a feel out for the left SI joint, making sure the hip flexor and quad feel delicious here. And we'll take 3 more rounds of breath, just feeling into the body. The chin is down to the right shoulder so that we feel and make space for the way the vagus nerve comes up on the left side of the neck to innervate into the brainstem. And when you're ready, we'll firm the core, roll back onto the back, unravel the legs, and you might find your alignment again and sway the legs gently from side to side. You might feel some good massage there through the glutes. And when you're ready, we'll send those knees over to the left. And maybe you need your block underneath the left side. Maybe it's high block, maybe it's low, maybe you don't need it at all. And again, there's loads of options. You could wriggle that right foot out a bit so it's a bit more dynamic in the quad and the hip flexor and into the top of the, or the base of the psoas, or you could hook that left ankle onto the right knee and feel that. Just make sure that that SI joint is not cranky on the right side. Really careful there. Right arm can go over the head or out to the side, wherever it's most delicious for the shoulder joint. And the chin gently tucks towards that left shoulder, so where the vagus nerve innervates up the right side of the neck. Where really this whole little sequence is all for the vagus nerve. And check your jaw, check your face. Let your breath expand the rib cage. And you might find early in your practice how the breath, sometimes the body takes over and tries to open itself for the breath. Let the breath move the body. So ultimately, we're training the breath, we're training the brain to breathe deeper, preferably in and out through the nose. One, we have a lot more real estate that we can harness to absorb oxygen. It's cleaner, ultimately, for us, more ability to clear bacteria and viruses. So the idea is, can you breathe into that right lung even more, make more space, even imagining almost that you're breathing up into the right underarm. Settling the jaw, softening the face. And when you're ready, we'll unravel the legs and firm the core and roll ourselves back onto the back. Good. Realign the spine and we'll draw that right thigh gently towards us. And start to draw that right knee towards the right shoulder. Let your arms do the work here. Let that right leg be heavy. An option, if your back is cranky, keep that left foot on the ground and you can dial it in or dial it up as much as you need, pressing that left foot down. That really supports the press of the sacrum. If it feels good to extend the left leg, you might do that. You can make this left leg active or passive, depends on how much sensation you want to navigate. Chin is gently dropped down, collarbones are broad, the arms are doing the work, the right leg anyway, is on vacation. Good. Nice big inhale here. And then we can gently rebend that left knee and change legs. Right leg can come down. Maybe check it out first to make sure that if it feels okay, you can stretch that right leg down. Really draw that left thigh in, massaging now onto the left hip and the descending colon. Broaden across the collarbones. Extend the back of the neck. And you may even rock the chin from side to side here. Some days the trapezius muscles just need all the help they can get. So broadening across the collarbones, check the jaw. Keep your breath smooth and easy here, massaging deeper as you draw that left thigh in. Fire up that right leg. You can flex the right foot, spread out through the toes. And then from here, we'll bend both knees, take both legs up towards the ceiling, roll the ankles around a couple of times, just kind of feel that out, maybe go in the opposite directions, and then shake your legs out. Just shake them all out. Good. You might see dog hair flying off of my legs and my feet. And then we'll bend the knees, reach up, grab opposite elbows or opposite wrists. And couple options here. The knees together can be kind of binding in the pelvis if the hips don't like that. Or you could take the knees wider and you could grab wrists or hands. And the idea for this one is pressing the knees up against the up against the arms and press the lower back down. Get long through the back of your neck. And move your breath. Really drink the breath in. Get long through the spine. Keep sliding those shoulder blades down the back. Again, keep your jaw easy. And if the knees were wide, you might tuck the knees a little closer and see if you can get up even more at this point, just warming up the hips a little bit here. And we press the knees against the arms, draw the shoulder blades back down, and then we'll release the legs, take the legs up, shake them around. Again, get some nice blood flow, especially if you've been seated a lot. A lot of people out there are saying sitting is the new smoking. So we gotta keep moving. And anytime we can get ourselves inverted, like this is technically an inversion. My head and heart are kind of on the same line, but there's a lot of extra blood flow coming back down through the legs. Let's move into figure 4. We'll get into the glutes and then get started here. Right ankle is in front of my left knee. Hands can slide around the gap of that left hamstring. Now, if that's too much already, what you might do is come up on the ball of your left foot. That way you're still getting some stretch, but you're not really torturing that right glute quite yet. So again, you can be on the ball of the foot. You could use your block on any of its settings and working here. Keep this right foot flexed to protect your knee. And if you want, you can clasp around that left hamstring. And we can draw that left thigh towards the left shoulder. Big thing to watch here is that that left thigh and right foot packet might slide towards the center line to make it easier in the right glute. Your body is going to find the path of least resistance. So ultimately, we're keeping an eye on our alignment and think about the spine. So notice if the lower back, if you can press the lower back down, press the sacrum down a little bit. But what happens is sometimes those lower ribs pop up. So pull the lower ribs gently back down, and you start to fire up the upper transverse abdominis. Broaden the collarbones, and then from here, we'll give a little bit of relief to that right glute, and we'll rock a little bit, just gently off center to the right. Going left is going to be a bit more dynamic. And just kind of rock from side to side. If the rocking part just is miserable, try a tiny bit, maybe take a quarter of the intensity or the action out of it. Just a little bit back and forth. This is actually really helpful if you have sciatic nerve trouble, because we're actually making space for the sciatic nerve to come out of its placement in the glute. All right, left leg can go up, right leg can go up, roll the ankles around again, and then we'll go to the other side. Left knee bends. Start with that right foot on the floor. See where you are. Left ankle flexes, left foot flexes, so you protect the knee. And then maybe you come up on the ball of the foot. Maybe you've got your blocks. Maybe that left hand dives through the triangle of the legs and you clasp around that right hamstring. And again, the left foot is flexed to protect the knee. Check your alignment. My right leg was sneaking towards the center line to make it easier. And the breath is smooth. Keep coming back over and over again and again to breathing here. Really getting your breath filled into the rib cage. Check those shoulders. Make sure they're not creeping up like earrings. Settling the jaw, the muscles of the face and eyes. And then when you're ready, we'll rock a little bit to the left, off center, and then back to the right. Just really gently, smooth and easy. Back and forth. A few more times. And then from here, we'll release that right foot back to the floor and keep the left knee bent, but we'll bring that ankle and knee and hip back in alignment. Take your left hand to your left thigh, right hand to the top of the left hand. And what we'll do is create an isometric engagement. So we're working the core here. I'm keeping my right leg bent for the moment to see how my back reacts. So pressing the thigh away from me, simultaneously squeeze that thigh back into the hands, and you'll get a lot of sensation in the hip flexor, top of the quad, even into the obliques here. Couple options. Stay here. If your back gets a little testy, push more through your right foot. Keep your breathing going. And then there's always options. You could slide that right foot out. You could extend the right leg long. I'm still working this isometric engagement with my left leg. And or you could hover that right leg. I would say this is probably peak for this one. I'm really getting that across the upper abdominals, keeping the breath smooth. You can hear the shake in my voice. And here we go. We'll release. Bend the knees, bring the feet hips width or wider apart, and rock the legs from side to side. Just kind of sway those out. Just giving yourself some space to move around. And oh, so exciting, we get to go to the other side. So notice if your mind is like, oh no, not the other side. And we're only here for a few. So set yourself up, get it nice and aligned through the hips. Left foot will keep on the ground for the moment. 90-degree angle in that right side. Right hand onto the thigh, left hand on top of that. So we really get that cross experience. Press the hands to the thigh pushes back into the hands. Right foot flexes, spread out through the toes. Lower back is pressing down. Core is engaging. Breath is smooth. And then maybe, just maybe, that left leg ooches away. You could flex the leg, keep the foot flexed. You could fire up all the connective tissue in that left leg by squeezing everything, or you could hover. And we'll take 3 more rounds of breath here. Don't shorten your inhale to get out of it. Stay with your breathing. One more. Ooh, and we'll bend those knees in this time and rock across side to side. Good. And just feel that out. That heat from the ab work helps to warm up the whole torso, hopefully up into the back as well. And when you're ready, either roll to one side or you can roll up to a seated position and make your way all the way over onto hands and knees. Just redoing the ponytail, and we will meet on the hands and knees. And remember here, if your wrists are cranky, you could always make a fist and go knuckle down there, keeping the same alignment, shoulders over the elbows. Or if you needed to, you could have your forearms on the ground, and that takes a ton of tension out of the shoulders. But again, you just want to make sure that everything is in alignment. I'll show you from hands and knees. And so we'll start with a few rounds of cat-cow. Dropping the lower ribs, tilting the tailbone high on the inhale, and then rounding up through the spine on the exhale. And we'll take about 5 more rounds here. And truly moving at your own pace. There's no need to speed through this. Please move at your own pace. If your breath is longer or shorter, let that dictate how fast you move through your practice. Remember, if your neck is cranky, you could always keep the neck somewhat neutral. No need to force it. And from here, we'll come back to a neutral spine, root down through the hands and slide that right leg back. And then we'll float the right leg up. Now make sure that you don't lean all the way out to the left. It's really normal to do that, but we're gonna try to stay really balanced through the alignment, and that ultimately fires up the core a bit more. Bend that right knee. We'll make 3 big circles, knee forward, out, and back. Just warming up those hips. Same idea here, try not to lean. Keep the torso right in the center, and at the end here, we straighten that right leg back out, and we swing the right foot towards the right hand. Now, if you need your blocks, I didn't set them up earlier, you might bring them forward with you. And if you need to extra pad that left knee, go for it. Over time, we'll warm ourselves up so that we can have that left thigh or hip further forward, but start out where you feel solid. So I like to basically start at a 90-90. But a big thing to be mindful of is how wide that right foot is away from the left knee. So go wide as your hips. It's a lot safer, feels sturdier, settles the nervous system a bit more. So from here we can press down into the hands and lift up through the crown of the head. Notice how the chin will want to try to lead the way. Lift up through the groin, the belly, and the chest. Take a nice big inhale here. And on an exhale, the arms can release down. Now, loads of options here. You could pull your elbows back towards each other to kind of pin the collarbones a bit broader and pin the shoulder blades towards each other. Maybe if it feels good, you could spin the palms. Palms can start to go back with the thumbs. Or a totally different sensation could be to interlock your fingers, get your pinkies, and tuck them underneath the occipital ridge and drop your head back into the hands, but keep lifting through the torso. Take a big inhale here, and on your exhale, slowly bring it back up. We release the hands either down onto the blocks or onto the floor. Wiggle that right foot forward, and on an exhale, take it back into the hamstring stretch. And we'll go back and forth here many times, probably about 10. Let your breath, again, dictate how fast you move through. Most of us are going to try to go fast through the hamstring stretch. However, we need to try the opposite. Inhaling, really work this front foot down when you come forward. And then you might even keep that right knee slightly bent, a little micro bend in the knee, so that you're not taxing the joint, but firing up the musculature even more. And over time, you can start to keep the spine lifted so that the extension is constantly happening through the spine. I'm really mashing my right foot down, firing up this right quad, and staying lifted through the groin, the belly, and the chest as I move back into the hamstring. Good. Keep those toes flexed, feet flexed, foot flexed, toes spread out as we go, especially into the hamstring stretch. And we'll take one more round and then marinate for a little while in the hamstring. We know that marinating does great things, so we will settle ourselves in. And loads of options here in this hold. Maybe the blocks go with you. Sometimes it feels really nice to go for the length in the spine out over that right quad. And so what you might want to do is micro bend the knee so you don't feel any strain in the back of the knee joint, or sometimes you'll get more sensation at the top of the calf muscle. But let your breath go long. Chin can drop in a little bit more. And options here, I'm really working my core in and up to hold the spine, but sometimes it's nice to let the chin move around and really find where those traps have some tension. We'll get into them a little bit later. Good, just kind of rolling through. And we'll bring the chin back to center. Tailbone tilts up and back. Get longer through the spine. Press the heart forward. Toes spread out to open up a little bit more sensation. Big inhale. On the exhale, we'll slide that right foot back. Deep lunge forward. Good. From here, we can bring the hands back up onto that right knee. Might realign a little bit. And lengthen up through the spine. We'll take the left arm out. My right hand's on the right knee for support. Left arm can come up and over. Now, if my shoulder's super cranky, I would bring my left arm in front of the chest just to kind of let that shoulder be for a little bit. And plenty of options here. I'm going to lift up through the groin, the belly, and the chest. I like the full option of taking that arm over because I'm getting that long line on the left side. Psoas, vagus nerve, pulling the lower ribs gently back in, pressing with my right foot, left shin. If the neck is cranky, look down over that right shoulder, or if it feels good and your balance is feeling pretty solid, you could look up towards that left elbow or towards your left hand, wherever it feels most supportive for you. Big inhale here. And on the exhale, we'll slowly bring it back up. Last little piece here, left hand to the inside of that right knee. And we're going to go back into an isometric engagement. So I'm squeezing my knee to my hand to my knee, lift up through the groin, the belly, and the chest. Now from here, this right arm can settle down by the right side, or it could reach back. Elbow might bend if the shoulder's cranky, palm up. And these left lower ribs spin around the axis of the spine. I'm still focusing on the work of the knee and the hand, squeezing together, get long through the back of the body. Big inhale. All the breath back out. And we inhale and slowly release. Ooh, take that right leg back, nice and long. Get long through the spine. One last piece, take those right toes off the left edge of your mat. Keep your alignment like we talked about earlier. You could check and look over that left shoulder. Make sure you're not leaning all to the left. Keep the roots in the right hand. Take a big inhale here. Get long through that right side now. Take a big inhale. Float the right leg up. And release the right leg back down. 3 rounds of cat-cow here. Inhaling, arching your chest forward, dropping the lower ribs. Exhaling, round, back up towards the ceiling. 2 more. Collarbones are broad, arms are strong. Exhale it in, exhale it out. And last exhale here. And we'll come to neutral and inhale, take that left leg long. And exhale, swing that left foot forward towards the left hand. Check your width here. Might be slightly different. Each of us have slightly different experiences on each side. And if you can, maybe there's a slight lunge forward. If not, back it up a little bit so you have that support. And we're balancing the pelvis as best we can. Good. Find the roots of that left foot. Squeeze the quad, lift the groin, the belly, and the chest. And then inhale from here. We can either take the arms back to where we were, interlocking the fingers, hooking the pinky fingers underneath the occipital ridge, and then really pressing. Sometimes I'll squeeze the base of my hands around the edge of the base of the skull and go for the lift. Keep your breath smooth and easy. Pressing that right shin down. I'm going to keep you there if you want to stay there, or if you were doing the arms, just to show that again. Elbows are pulling back, thumbs are pressing back in this nice opening here. Really check your left foot. Make sure you're not rolling just into the ball of the foot. We do that a lot. Try to pull everything straight into the spine. And then slowly from here we'll release. Wriggle that left foot forward. Press the tailbone back and the heart forward. Exhale, we open into the left side now. And maybe the blocks are here. Maybe your hands are on the ground. Whatever feels best in your experience. And you might feel how it takes a few rounds just to kind of get in, get the cobwebs out. And then you might start to refine it. So staying longer through the whole spine, through the whole flow. And I feel like over the time of doing that, it really helps people with lower back issues. Again, sitting is the new smoking. So for those of us who are working on computers sometimes or all the time, it's really, really important that we get that movement back into the body. Take a walk, stretch, anything you have the space and time for, or make space and time for, I should say. A few more rounds here. Really stay rooted down through that left foot. On the days that you're tired, be really mindful that you're not dumping into the hip joints. We're still keeping the legs strong, so we're squeezing together, but not dropping all the weight through the hip joints. That is too much wear and tear in the hips. Good. Last round here. And we'll find our way into the hold. So what feels best in your body here? Again, that knee may be bent. You might even micro bend it so that we get all the length out of the spine too. And over time, if you can start to squeeze the quad to fire up the leg muscle, but not to push the knee joint down. We want to be so careful with our sweet knee joints. But we're squeezing, taking the tailbone back, pulling the lower ribs forward, constantly making space. Again, maybe the chin turns from shoulder to shoulder. Some days the neck feels tighter than others. But that's the beauty of our practice. As often as we can, daily, if possible, we connect to ourselves, to our breath, to feeling what is different today from yesterday, and so we can learn and be more self-aware of the patterns that we hold in the body. Last big inhale here. All the breath out as we slide that left foot back, deep lunge forward. And inhale, we'll come back upright, realign however you need. And from here, we'll take the left hand to the left knee, dial the pelvis nice and parallel to the end of the mat or the towel if you're using a towel. Right arm can come up. Remember all the options. Elbow could bend. You could have your right arm hooked across the front of the chest, whatever is most delicious for you. Full left foot to the floor, and we arc over that left hip. So I'm really keeping some good root in that right shin. And if possible, if you want, that left arm can release. Sometimes that extra release helps open up the right side. Huge inhale into that right lung. And on your exhale, we'll pull ourselves all the way back up. And then that right arm, right hand goes into the right knee. And I'm squeezing, creating that isometric engagement. Knee to hand, hand to knee, spine is tall, left arm reaches back, squeeze everything to the center line. And these right lower ribs start to revolve around the axis of the spine. And I'm reaching back with my left hand. And again, remember the neck. If it's cranky, try to stay in the center line of everything. Last inhale here. And we'll slowly revolve back to center. Release that left leg back. Hands can come down. Left leg reaches back behind you to the right side. Dial in your torso. Keep it nice and parallel. Press that left heel back. Gaze over that right shoulder. Big inhale. And try to get your breath, yes, to touch in and inflate the belly, but really to come up through the whole breathing apparatus. Breathe everything. And we'll float that left leg back up. Release the left knee back down. Toes can come together. And we'll head towards child's pose. If child's pose is really easy in your practice, that's awesome. If it's feeling a little intense or if you feel like you might spike a headache, you might flex your wrists and catch your forehead in the bridge of your eyes in the heel of your hand. And sometimes it's really an interesting release out and down through the back of the shoulder blades. This is I like this one. This one feels pretty yummy. You get a nice little massage across the eyebrows. And wherever you are, whatever shape or depth or version of your child's pose, let's take 3 more rounds of breath, wherever is most delicious for you. When you're ready, we'll slowly make our way back up on to hands and knees. And from here, we can work with bringing that right knee forward. You're going to feel like you're kind of going into pigeon, but we're not. Slide your right heel in front of your left knee and then bring that right foot gently off to the side. I'm going to show the more challenging version first on this one. Then that left knee slides up behind the right. And ultimately my left foot goes wide from onto the right side of my mat. So my knees are stacked behind each other. One option is to have a block, high or low, or medium or low, and sit back onto the glutes. Some of you may be able to sit on the glutes themselves, and that's great too. If this is just a miserable idea, horrible thought, roll back onto your glutes and take that lower leg, which will be your left leg here. Left leg, kind of line it up so the heel's in line with the pubic bone, maybe even a little bit further to the right. and try to stack that right knee on top of the left. So my left leg is long, my right knee is bent. Same thing without the torturous glute experience. Flex that left foot, press the hands down, and we can work the hands down into the floor to help keep the lift in the spine. When we start to make space in the physical body, that's what comfort is. We're starting to make space there. In our practice, we start to make space in the mind, and that is where we find ease. So we'll come up long through the back of the body, belly pulls in, and if possible, the hands can push down and slightly back to tilt you forward. Good. Now, either way, if this left leg is bent too, we're still doing the same thing. I actually like the leg out version on a day-to-day basis if I don't have a ton of time, because I can get in and a little bit deeper, but it also gives me something to kind of work with. So I can kind of crawl my hands along that left leg. So see if you can keep the toes spread out. Again, that fires up all the connective tissue. Definitely not opposed to do if you've eaten recently, because your belly will get in the way. Can you get a bit longer through the spine? Big inhale here. Oh, the breath back out. Last breath here. Oh, the breath back out. And we'll slowly walk ourselves back upright, trying to keep that spine as long, as tall as possible. Beautiful. What's fun here is if that left leg is bent too, if you are on your block or on your bottom, we can roll forward onto the knees, tuck the toes underneath you, and you're going to keep the feet right where they are. And all you're going to do is keep rotating around on the feet. We're rotating to the left. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going until you think, wait a minute, what happened? And then it's utter yoga magic. The left leg is on top now. Dun, 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 dun. So maybe you put your block underneath your bottom again, and the knees are stacked. Or if you need to, you could have your right leg out down the center line, maybe a little to the left if possible. And we can lift up tall through the spine, that left knee stacked as close as it can get over the right knee. Spine is tall, hands pressed down. Again, we're rooting down. Think of the union of opposites here. Tailbone drops, drills for oil. Crown of the head reaches up. Shoulder blades drop down, collarbones go broad. Big inhale here. And on an exhale, we tilt the pelvis. So try not to round. It's really normal to round over. Try to keep that length through the spine. I'm firing up that right quad too as I go forward. So I really have that good awareness along the back of the right leg. And again, I can keep my hands anywhere along this right knee, shin, ankle, or foot. And press the lower ribs forward, shoulder blades back. Breathe deeply here. We'll take 3 more rounds of breath. Okay. And then slowly we unravel and make our way all the way back upright. From here, we can take that left leg and stretch it back out. What you might want to do is bring the hands behind you, take your feet about as wide as the mat, scoot your bottom forward a little bit, and we'll gently rock the legs from side to side. Sometimes you get a nice opening across the front of that shoulder as well if the shoulders feel tight, or if you worked out a little bit harder in the arms. It's a nice way to kind of get into those places that hold tension and tightness. Excellent. And then from here, we'll slowly make our way back down onto the back. And allow the knees to gently draw towards the chest one more time. Elongate out through the back of the neck. Take a big full inhale. And on your exhale, we'll release that left foot. If you have a block, you can use your block if you want to do a supported bridge. If not, I'll show you a regular bridge. So we'll gently, not a lot, not really forceful because we can end up adding tension, but just slide the shoulder blades down ever so slightly. Plant your feet, really press the heel, then the ball of the foot, and we'll press the upper arms down alongside the torso and the pelvis reaches up. And from here, you may need to adjust a little bit. If you feel the vertebrae of your neck grinding into the mat, please come down. We want that cushion of the shoulders to kind of open up that space so the neck is a bit free. Also be mindful of ponytail adjustment there. You might need to go higher or just take it out altogether. Hands can come onto the hip flexors to balance out where the balance is on the hip. So you might have one dominant hip versus the other. So ladies, that's usually more of an issue for us. Press down into the heel, press down into the ball of the foot. Options, you could interlock your fingers and reach your hands towards the heels and press down. Sometimes I like to keep my upper arm, my hands free to keep the balance of the pelvis, but also to really work those upper arms down. I get a nice stretch across the back of the traps that way. If you'd like your bridge to be supported, slide your block underneath the sacrum and then let that happen. Allow that space. It's one of my favorite things to do is just to let the torso, the pelvis be supported by the bridge. A few more rounds of breath here. If you're holding your bridge all on your own, again, take rest whenever you need, or just settle onto a block and let this become a completely supported bridge, passive bridge here. And if anything, it just gives you more awareness to breathe up into the width of the chest. We'll take about 3 more rounds wherever you are. But we will meet in a supported bridge. So I'll stay. If you're in an active bridge, go ahead and grab a block or a phone book if they still make them, some cushion, something to just give you a little bit of lift off the floor. And then from here, we can take the legs up towards the ceiling. Now, once you lift your feet off the ground, if you don't feel supported on your block, readjust. Super important to feel supported here. Legs go up towards the ceiling and you can fire up the legs, keep them active, toes spread out, jaws easy, and we're receiving just the most amazing wash of freshly oxygenated blood. If you feel like you might spike a headache, go ahead and come down, come into Shavasana, flat on the back. We'll meet you there in about 5 breaths. And from coming out of this posture, we'll then do a twist and head towards Shavasana proper. So really work those legs, squeeze the calf muscles to the shins, the quads, to the femurs, spread out through the toes. Make sure there's a slight internal rotation on those thighs to keep those arches reaching. One more big inhale here. My hands were trying to help out as I was working my feet. So fascinating. And we'll bend those knees and bring the legs down gently one by one. Good. One last little thing here. We can draw that right knee towards the right shoulder. Option, you could use your arms if you want to. Really work the arm strength here. It's a bit strange in the back of the neck sometimes. So if it doesn't feel good, don't do it. Or you can make this a bit more active. And I flexed my right foot and I'm pulling my right thigh towards my right shoulder. So there's a lot of compression in the hip. And then I'm going to take the right ankle across to the left knee and just let that right knee drop open. Keeping that right foot flexed to protect the knee. Big inhale. Let each exhale soften something. Jaw, eyes, hands, fingers, face. And then we'll release that right leg back up towards the ceiling. Last piece here for that hip flexor, quad, and psoas. And we'll kick the right leg far away. Now, one option, if your back is cranky, stop with your knees squeezing together. That's a great strengthener. If it feels like you can lower that right leg a little bit more, go for it. You can have your right heel on the ground, but notice what happens. Notice if that left hip kind of pulls itself up more tightly towards that left side of the lower ribs. I'm really trying to keep my pelvis rooted to the block. There's a slight internal rotation on the thighs, pressing the right heel away. Shoulders soften. Amazing how many other pieces work while we're trying to work our right leg. Big inhale here. And I'm going to slide that right foot back to bend that right knee and take a breath or two here just in a restorative bridge. Big inhale. All the breath back out. And then left side. So again, you can either clasp around this bent left knee, or if you want you to make it a bit more active, left thigh draws towards that left shoulder. I'm working my right foot down into the ground as well to support. Take a nice big inhale here. And then on an exhale, just straighten that leg out for a moment. Might roll my ankle around a little bit, and then I'm going to bend the left knee, bring the ankle across to the right knee, and let that left knee drop open. Check the jaw, check the face, all of your places, all those places where you know from practicing hold tension. And that truly is one of those initial gifts that our yoga practice gives. It shows us the place we hold tension. What are our habit patterns? What are our tension patterns? And those are important to start to get some awareness of, because when it's time to go to sleep and we settle into that stillness, we can do a quick body scan of all of our spots that hold tension and let them each one by one release. And that leads us towards a deeper, more comfortable, peaceful sleep. Nice big inhale here. On the exhale, we'll draw that left leg up towards the ceiling. Now really fire that right foot down into the ground for support. Spread the left toes. And then we'll slowly lower that left leg. Now remember, if you squeeze your knees together to support any lower back or back issues, go for that now. And then my left heel landed on the ground. Again, some days it hovers, some days it's really, really tight. The invitation here is to see where you are. You don't need to judge it or force it to be different. And then breathe up into the lower ribs. Breathe up through that whole space of the belly, the rib cage. Let the breath in to create the space. Let the exhale take out whatever you don't need anymore. Press the lower back into the block a little bit more. Right foot roots, and on your next exhale, we'll take that left leg all the way back up. Ooh, some days it feels heavy. And we'll bend that left knee. And take the next 3 rounds of breath here, just resting. Now remember, if you're on one of the higher settings, maybe the middle or the highest setting of the block, then maybe you can, if you feel the need, you could lower the block to its lowest setting and let that settle in. Sometimes it's nice to take the feet wide and drop the knees together to release the lower back a little bit more. Breathe here. And when you're ready, we can slowly bring the feet back to about hips distance apart. Float the hips up a little bit, slide the block out of the way, and go from the top of the neck all the way down to the tail. Try to tuck it all down, vertebrae by vertebrae. Now, being flat on that block for a moment of time is hard to kind of get more articulation out of the lower vertebrae. But we will feel it out. Feel what you feel in the moment here. And then we'll bring the feet closer together. And if you'd like, you can drape that right leg over the left. Bounce the hips a wee bit to the right. Reach that left arm out to the corner of the mat a bit more. And then just let those knees drop to the right. To the left. And loads of options here. If your neck is cranky, keep your chin in line with your throat and breathe here. Right arm could go way out to the side or over the head, or your special brand or depth here. There's so many options. There's no wrong way to do it. So the main thing is to feel into what feels most delicious and gives you the stretch that you need, but don't lose your breath for anything. You might find that turning the chin over towards the right shoulder is helpful so that you get the full twist of the spine. It's not mandatory. Just feel it out. Feel what feels good here. Huge inhale. What can soften? What can release so there's no work happening, no force? Let gravity do this work for you. And when you're ready, you might fire up the core again and roll the lower back to the ground. Remember, you're going to be a bit cattywampus because of moving the hips. So unravel the legs, realign the spine, and just take a breath. No need to go traipsing straight into the opposite side. Just give yourself a second. Let your spine feel maybe what feels like an odd imbalance, but also maybe length on one side versus shorter or tighter on the other. And then we'll navigate the left leg up and over the right, bounce the hips gently to the left, and then make space for those knees to gently settle over to the right. And sometimes it's nice to shimmy the shoulder, that right shoulder specifically, kind of out of the way. So what I'll do is I'll take my elbow out to the side, push it down, and sort of shimmy that right shoulder blade out of the way. Maybe the chin turns. Try not to let the chin go too high. If anything, drop the chin down towards that left shoulder and really breathe into the rib cage. Breathe into the places where it feels like there's no space, because each inhale makes space. And again, space in the body is comfort. Space in the mind is ease. It's how we create ease. And settle here. Let gravity do some work. We spend so much time fighting against gravity on the regular basis, but just giving in, letting gravity do the work for you, like we would in a restorative yoga practice, is really yummy sometimes, especially as we head towards rest. And from here, firm up the core, and we'll roll back onto the back. And Shavasana is absolutely yours, whatever feels best. Some days it's really nice to have blocks underneath the back of the knees. That just kind of gives the legs an opportunity to rest deeply. You could do the same thing with a bolster or a pillow off of your bed or the couch if you have one nearby. That's lovely because it helps a little bit of a bigger space. You can kind of roll it out. If you have two bolsters, sometimes catching the heels on the other bolster, and then wriggle around. Do whatever feels best here. Kind of flop about, get settled in. And we'll take these next several minutes here to allow ourselves to rest. You might take a big full belly inhale. Pause at the top of your inhale. And then as you feel ready, allow that exhale to slowly come back out. Not to the point of discomfort, but just to feel the way the breath moves back out of the body. No force, no pressure. And do that a few more times and just feel the way gravity takes control for you. And when you feel ready, you might just softly bring the eyes gently downward. You might notice when the mind is busy, the way your inner gaze looks up towards the mind. Offer this softening of your inner gaze just below horizon. And you might send your awareness to your feet. Notice where you feel sensation. Is it from the inside out? Or maybe the outside in? Maybe it's a warmth, maybe there's a pulsing involved. You may feel your calf muscles releasing with gravity, or maybe you feel the way they broaden against the surface, supporting them. You might notice the hip joints as they soften back towards the mat, the way the glutes broaden a little, and the whole length of both legs completely let go. Allow awareness to fill the whole torso here, from hip bones to collarbones. You might draw awareness to the central channel of your spine and let sensation radiate from there through every cell of your torso. And this radiant sensation may blossom out across the collarbones, shoulders, down through the elbows, to land in the palms and radiate through every finger. You may feel the softness of the neck as it rests to the structure. All the muscles of the throat as they settle, clearing the line of any holding, any tension, anything unexpressed. And we'll draw awareness gently to the hinges of your jaw. You may feel the way it settles back and slightly down. You might allow awareness to settle at the muscles at the back of your eyes, and this softness of the eyelids as they rest to the eyes. The bridge of the nose settles back. You may feel the broadening of the muscles at the back of both nasal passages. And welcome your whole face releasing. The whole face, the whole body here, gently releasing, softening and letting go. And from here, we'll take this next minute together here in silence, gently releasing, feeling this tender state of stillness as the whole body rests, softens, and releases for this next minute together here in silence. You might gently deepen your breath and feel the way the whole body settles again and again to the surface supporting you. Take your time here. If you have the opportunity to stay resting, please do. If you're ready, you might gently make your way to a comfortable seated position. If you'd like, you can bring hands gently to prayer position, thumbs at the breastbone, and thank yourself for your practice, for showing up and finding a way. If you'd like, you could bring thumbs to the forehead in a gentle reminder of clear thought, thumbs to the lips in gentle reminder of right speech, internally and externally, and thumbs gently back to the heart for pure heart. Namaste.